Evening on BBC One now, where Peter Brown reports on the disillusioned workforce at Swindon's doomed BR workshops as the Great Western Railway celebrates its 150th year. Requiem for a railway.
It will soon be 40 years since South Wales and much of the west of England was Great Western country. To some people, it always will be. Books about the GWR are still published every year. Thousands of men and women, unborn when the Great Western was nationalised in 1948, regularly give up weekends to recapture something of the remarkable fascination of steam trains. Today's diesel-engined high-speed trains, the HSTs, are not made at Swindon. But almost everything that moved on the GWR was, and Swindon is to close. British Rail Engineering wants it shut completely by March 1986. In the spring of 1985, 2,300 men and women still worked here. And in the week before the announcement of the shutdown, I was trying to find out what the spirit of the Great Western meant to them. My guide was a man who'd spent most of his working life here, Ted Jeffries.
They're set in the spring. They're making a...
Ted's an electrician by trade with a talent for conveying his knowledge and enthusiasm to apprentices, school children and television interviewers. He has a head full of stories about the history of the Swindon Works and the influence it's had on the town.
They all ride and take the weight evenly.
Every job has its own language. They call this coiling a wire. There's a well-defined pecking order here. Coiling wire ranks well down the list.
It's a trade that's not apprentice-fed. Any man can, providing he's got the physical stamina and common sense.
But he's doing it in much the same way as his father might have done it.
The same way as it was done 100 years ago. There's no machine into that, it's purely by hand. It's a real old-fashioned craft.
Yeah.
They've had just 2 minutes in which to make their spring before the metal cools. Now it's tempered in oil.
At the end of the day, it's to how he hardens it, and how it's tempered, how he sets it, is to whether the tea stays in the cup or it lands up in the saucer. It's just as simple as that.
It's thirsty, exhausting work. 2 gallons of drink every shift, plus salt tablets, are traditional remedies. This sort of work merited royal attention in 1924. King George V and Queen Mary visited Swindon that year. There was something special about the GWR. The railway felt close enough to the Crown to name Britain's most powerful locomotive after the royal visitor.
And this was built in the shop here, Ted?
This one was built, and it's got its own stable at the far end of the shop.
When would this have been made?
1927, almost 60 years ago.
Another, yes,
Yeah.
no, you just say another couple of years, she'll be 60 years old.
60.
And all this brass and copper work, all
All
done
by
here at
coppersmiths
Swindon.
in the shops, and the castings done within the foundry.
Yes. Bob's is one of the most famous things in the world, isn't it, Rich?
This one
And
is.
again, all this brass work and all done in Swindon.
Or you got all the fitting of the cladding, you got your conrods the fitters put on, here's your droid gear, your piston. In the front you've got the brass castings.
Springs all made here.
Springs all made here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a wonderful job.
Yes. And on
A
that-
grand exhibition of the skills of Swindon.
Yes.
Yes, the last time this was in, we brought in an old driver just to come and have a look at it. And he was allowed to drive it. And when he got in the cab and really got going, with aid, the emotion come over him. He was, whoa, you're thrilled to bits, you know. It's an example of Swindon, and well, now it's here, in its resting place. You know, it looks
Yes.
at home.
Well, it does indeed, yes. It's a splendid shape. It would be a poor man that didn't feel some sort of excitement about it. Ted, you seem busy enough in here.
Yes, it's fairly busy in the machine shop.
What do you think the spirit of the Great Western, if it means anything at all, would mean in a place like this?
Well, they're proud of the job that they do. There's standards that they'll reach. It's been bred in from father to son all the way down the line, and it's still here.
Would you have some second and third generation railwaymen working
Oh, there are
in
many,
here?
many.
What do you think the spirit of the Great Western means to you?
It's something that's alive here and part of it. You can't really say, yes, it's that. It's
But-
something that visitors, when I bring them round, they feel it.
But you're sure it's there?
It's there.
Something in
It's
the
there,
air.
yeah.
As a boy, all Ted's ambitions centred on working inside.
I mean, was there a special sense of being a part in Swindon?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. For me, anyway, with a railway background but unable to get in at the start, I was all my life looking forward to the day when I started working in the railway.
In today's meritocracy, the notion that able men should want nothing more than to spend a working life in railway workshops is hard to credit. But for Les Axby's generation, that's the way it was.
It was the only thing you expected out of life, really, that you were going to go inside, as it was known in Swindon in those days. You either worked inside, or there was very little else that you could work at, to be truthful. You either worked inside, and your dad worked inside, and if your father worked inside, well, then you were virtually expected to follow him.
I mean, was there a real pecking order?
Oh yes, definitely that. Right through the piece, right from Mr. Hawksworth at the top.
He was the chief mechanical engineer.
That's it. Right down to the foreman that we had, Mr. Millard. When he walked out of the office and it was time to go home, then he walked through the length of the shop, and we all stood at the end of the Travisser roads and didn't move out of the bay until Mr. Millard and his under-foreman had walked the length of the shop, and you followed on like, like Pied Piper following the...
Do you remember them as good old days?
They were good old days, oh yes. The shop was full of characters, oh yes, they were.
But it can't have been all good. They were very powerful, and people could be presumably sacked and so on.
Oh yes, they were very severe people to work for, but also they had the same outlook really that Honda have got today, when they look after you from the time you start working for them until the days, if you behave yourself, well then you finished your days with them. I still got my indentures, and I suppose there aren't many of us left in here now that have them signed by Mr. Hawksworth, who was the CME, the Chief Mechanical Engineer.
Did you meet him?
Never, no. Saw him, yes. Meet him, never, no.
Don't they talk about men having GWR stamped on their backside?
Oh,
you sound as though you're one.
Oh, you could well be right, yeah. Yeah, you could well be right.
In Les Axby's opinion, Swindon could make just about anything and repair it, even splice a wire rope. The Great Western didn't only run a railway, it ran docks and harbours too, and that meant lots of rope. Swindon can still maintain it in good order. It's a skill British Rail now seems willing to lose.
What's this?
This is our chain testing house. Any form of lifting gear, even jacks, we test. It's very old, dates back to 1874, and it was priced at £170.
And still works?
And still works. But the expert, I'd like you to meet the expert. This is Bill Watkins. He can tell you more about this than what I can.
How long have you worked in here?
I actually worked in the test. I've been associated with the test house now since 1954, so you can safely say around about the 30-year mark.
Now, you still use this piece of testing equipment. How often?
This is used now for 3 days a week. We use it for testing material, testing chains, wire ropes, all the various items of lifting equipment that are used.
Couldn't we do it better with some other piece of equipment now?
I don't think you could do it better. The machine is accurate down to 100 weight, to close on 100 ton, although we haven't put 100 ton on it for a considerable period of time now. But I don't think a present-day appliance, a dynamometer or anything like that, would be more efficient.
And 170 pounds 111 years ago. Pretty good value for money.
I should say so, wouldn't you?
The men who've spent their working lives inside know that whatever the appearance is, Swindon has changed a great deal. And not just by losing the capacity to build great locomotives. This is the A shop, once the heart of Swindon, the erecting shop where those great locomotives were assembled. Now it's used for repairing diesel multiple units, a poor substitute for building castles and kings. But that's not Stuart White's complaint. Once an office boy here, he retired as locomotive chief superintendent 4 years ago. He believes everything changed for the worse when the Second World War ended.
From that time on, it seemed to deteriorate, not all at once, but slowly that spirit went.
What are we talking about? What was this spirit of the GWR?
Well, we were a family, and when I say that, I mean it in the full sense of the word. We pulled together, everyone helped each other. If there was ever anyone in trouble, then their mates made sure that there was help given. You didn't feel just a number, you felt a part of the whole thing itself.
Is there any way we can bring it back?
I don't think so today. I think that to bring it back, you would have to go back to the industry as it was when it was a real heavy industry and everything was ticking over. But I feel that as it is now, we won't get that spirit again, which is a real pity, really.
Stuart White's heart is still lost to the GWR.
Well, I remember my apprentice days before I started in the erecting shop. It was one of my great things to go down there and stand at the bottom of the Traverser Road in the A shop and look up and see castles and kings and halls on either side. It was really great. You felt full of pride when you stood there and looked at these locomotives. It was the same with all the apprentices in those days. The one ambition was to get on to work on these locomotives. You couldn't wait until you got down there, which was the real height of your apprenticeship if you ever got on new work. Then that was something that you remembered all your life, as I do. It was a really marvellous experience, and that part of it, the erecting shop, was probably the most vivid memories I've got of the old Great Western Railway. I often think of it now, especially since I've been retired. It was not an easy life in those days. No one pretends it was, but it was something that you can remember with pride.
Nationalisation at first changed very little. Swindon still built for steam, though now to standard British Railways designs. One of these became the very last to be built anywhere for British Rail. It was named in March 1960 the Evening Star.
I remember going and seeing her pulled out on that auspicious occasion with sort of mixed feelings, because To me, it wasn't a Great Western locomotive. It was a standardised locomotive after nationalisation with a lot of pipes running down the outside and an untidy-looking thing, in my opinion. There was the pathos, of course, that it was the last steam loco going out, but I didn't feel it as much as if it had been the last king or castle or hall or something of the Great Western itself. When the diesels came in, Swindon managed to keep its own stamp upon them, but they were very impersonal. They had no life in them, really. The steam loco breathed. It gave forth steam and smoke. You looked at a diesel locomotive, you got in and you started it up and it chugged away, but it didn't mean anything. It was lifeless. There wasn't that feeling that there was with the old steam locomotives, not by any means.
Having to build other people's railway engines wasn't the only blow to Swindon's pride. 3 years later, it was the last king which entered the Swindon works. Almost at the same time, British Railways announced that nearly half their workshops would have to close. Swindon itself would be saved, but large parts of the works would be demolished. Over 100 acres, just over a third of it, was sold, mainly to the local council. The real power now was with the politicians and a British Railways board that was closer to Derby and Crewe than to Swindon. Steam was close to being abandoned altogether. Then, in May 1963, came the reshaping of the railways, the famous Beeching Report. Dr. Richard Beeching, a professional manager recruited from ICI to the British Railways Board, had been told to find ways of running the industry at a profit. Dozens of branch lines that had come to seem a permanent part of the British countryside began to disappear. 5,000 miles of track were ripped up. More and more freight traffic moved to the roads. 2,000 stations were closed. Some of the lines had never begun to fulfill the over-enthusiastic claims their Victorian promoters had made for them. Many a landowner in Brunel's day had bitterly resisted their construction, but their end was widely mourned. 70,000 jobs went with them. In future, declared Dr. Beeching, traffic would be concentrated on 3,000 miles of main line. Hundreds of steam engines were towed away to the breakers. Over the next 20 years, there was often talk that Swindon Works would have to close. In the spring of 1985, the rumours were circulating again, but there was a year's work for more than 2,000 people. Besides, it was the year of the 150th anniversary. Swindon had a central role in the celebrations. A great exhibition was planned. Not the time, surely, to announce the end. But the reports that closure was coming persisted in the days we were filming. What did the shop stewards in the foundry think?
The men are just thinking it's another close-down rumour. They're not really taking it that seriously, so there's not a lot of action going on. A lot of them are thinking, great, it's closing down, we can get out. But there are a hell of a lot of people in here who want to stay in here.
there is a mixture of feelings. I mean, there are a lot of people, particularly the younger people, who want to keep the works open. The older ones getting on toward the 60th mark are not too bothered about it. But then, you know, we would dearly love to see it stay open. We fought for it and we intend fighting and carry on fighting.
Everyone knew that the government's agreement to more capital investment by British Rail, particularly more diesel multiple units, was bound to mean less repair work for Swindon. The works manager, Harold Taylor, put the threat into context.
The railways have invested a considerable amount of money in new rolling stock, electrification, and of course, with that new rolling stock that'll run and make the railways, which they've got a duty to do for the public, is to run a more efficient system. That, by the very fact that it's all new, it's new rolling stock, it needs less maintenance. Unfortunately, from Swindon's point of view, that's the position that we find ourselves in.
Preparations for the exhibition went ahead. There was to be a great gathering of steam locomotives, visitors by the hundred from the United States, even from Japan. Ted Jeffries explained what would happen.
This will be emptied. It's on the point of evacuation now, where they're going to clear it out.
All these be cleared away?
Everything for this 150th anniversary. This is where they'll house all the steam engines, the railway armour bits,
Yeah, and then what will happen after that?
Well, when it's all over...
The exhibition?
They say they're going to take it away, but I think it'll be a crying shame to take it away, because it'll be a living museum.
It would be. You think it would be much better used in that way?
If they could keep it as a working museum, it's here forever.
Yeah.
Great Western in Swindon and live on.
4 days later, the announcement came. Dismissal notices would go out in October. The works would be shut by March 1986.
I think everyone was just completely dead of... They just didn't know where they was going, and the feeling there now is such that there's people beginning to get worried looks on their faces because they know the future's not there. And the over 45s, they're in a terrible state because there's no industry in this town or in this area that they're going to get employed. What are we going to do? We're going to join the millions of those. And I can't see what future is for any of the railway workers at this moment.
The chairman of the Works Union Committee, Graham Humphreys, had his own ideas.
The way to fight this is with logic, and the logic is the work's there, it needs to be done, the company's being run down, but eventually in the short term, and I mean short term, for 3-4 years, they're going to have to be a reappraisal of the situation of railways in this country and upgrade it. They're doing it everywhere else in Europe.
And if we had the right input from the government, we would probably be able to make this a very viable concern if we were allowed to. We're not even allowed to compete. And the skills and the engineering facilities we've got in there, we could compete with any firm in that type of work and any other type of engineering work, but they won't allow us to.
Nobody could ever understand the logic of the HSTs running in the Western region. Even if they broke down outside Swindon Works, we wouldn't be allowed to repair them. That particular vehicle would be towed to Derby or Doncaster for repair. We are more than capable of repairing them in Swindon. More than capable. There hasn't been a job sent to Swindon Works that we haven't been capable of doing. Jobs that other factories have turned down. They said it was impossible to do, and we have done that.
We've retrained boilermakers to be electricians, coppersmiths to be vehicle builders and back again, all sorts of things we've done to be viable, and all the things that was required of us in today's age. I would have thought that Swindon Works was probably the epitome of what any Tory government was looking for. We was flexible, skillful, we could meet any task, any job. We was prepared to do anything, tackle anything. And I would have thought that under those circumstances that we had a good future. What they're saying in Swindon to us, the cheek they got to say, you're a good works, You're a flexible worker, but we're going to sacrifice you for the corporate good. Now, I don't think that's acceptable to sacrifice a town's heritage and all the things that go with that. The feeling in the town, this just isn't on. It's not the way to run a business.
British Rail's answer, an organisation called Swindon Holdings, designed to attract new jobs for the workshop men, though not to retrain them. It would take over the workshops with a BR man, Andrew Gray, in charge.
Swindon Holdings is set up to do two things. The first thing is to look at creating new jobs for the people who unfortunately are going to be put out of work here at Swindon. And the second thing it's trying to do is to develop this site that we're now standing on. Here at Swindon, land, this type of land, would be very, very attractive to us commercially. And up to 18 months ago, that's what we would have done. We would have declared this land non-operational, and we would have disposed of it in the best corporate interest. Now what we're saying, no, we as Swindon Holdings are going to administer this land with the prime purpose of attempting to create as many new jobs on this site and in the area as we possibly can.
You'll see that on the film, the young lad turning the motor bearing. Well, I trust him to do anything at all. He's got all the skills that any lad could ever want. But I'm afraid as it is now, with the closing of the works, I just don't know where he can sell those skills. Does he have to get on his bike, as Mr. Tevitt says? Because around here, there won't be any heavy engineering at all.
The problem with government and most other governments is they don't take us as a, you know, our own personal lives and look at the communities. They look at it as a statistic rather than, you know, us in this sort of town.
What have you been learning in the past 3.5 years you've had of your apprenticeship, have you?
Yeah, I've been a coach builder.
Is that going to be any good now that the works will close?
No, not in this town. Definitely probably not in the west either, in the west of England. There's no firms around.
I never believed it'd happen. I mean, they've been saying it since about 72, haven't they? I never thought it'd shut down like this.
So what are you going to do now?
Just sit and hope that there's some jobs come up for coppersmiths.
I mean, it is a good, sound, solid apprenticeship. I mean, anybody who's been through the works can tell you that. It's a good basis for life, really, the apprenticeship you're getting here. But it's been wasted to the extent that we'd never be able to use it again. It's a waste. Most of the blokes in this factory, the trades that never be passed down from generation to generation ever again. That's the sick thing about it.
With nothing left for Swindon to celebrate, plans for the exhibition were abandoned.
This country's wealth is its people. The people of this country own everything. What's happening now is a few people in power are robbing the country of its own natural heritage, whether it's in oil, coal, railways, national health, everything. It can't go on. It will be changed. It's got to be changed within the next few years. Otherwise, this country will never recover.
Our engineers at Swindon reckon that we get the maximum of power into the minimum of size. I'm sure that my engine is the best of the 30 engines of the King class. This engine was not manufactured, she was built. Beautiful fittings, and whatever the speed, she never rides rough. Our engines have always a regular crowd of admirers whenever they start off on their long journey from Paddington to the west.
There had to be a last steam locomotive, and it is a tremendous thing that that last steam locomotive should be built here in these great works at Swindon. And I like to think that we shall remember Gooch and Dean and Churchward and Collett and all the wonderful craftsmen of Swindon who through so many decades have backed up their leaders and given us such a fine fleet of locomotives.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now unveil this locomotive and christen it the Evening Star.